All right, we will reconvene a regular board meeting. Into order, compliance, we have met compliance with modifications. Roll call, please.
I'm here. Laura Gapsky.
Here.
Brooke Taylor.
Here.
Mike Meyer. Here. Steve Olson. Here.
Here.
Back is excused.
All right, at this time, would everybody please join me in the pledge of allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. It is a time for comments by members of the public during the meeting as indicated on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to address the board on any of the topics included on tonight's agenda may do so by completing a public comment sign-up sheet and handing it up here to Ann up front. Comments should be focused on the items being considered by the board and should be restricted to no more than 3 minutes in length. Action taken at today's meeting will be final approval unless otherwise noted. With that disposition of minutes from October 10th, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Report of the superintendent. Informational items, did you want to go through?
I have a Spartan Showcase.
There you go.
Yes. So this month, we would like to recognize some of our outstanding buildings and ground staff. And so we have two in particular I want to highlight tonight. One is here with us tonight. Tony Parks from the high school is here. So I just want to share his recommendation. The nominee or the nominator had said that Tony is one of the hardest working individuals I've ever met. He goes above and beyond to make sure our building is clean and ready for students and staff. He approaches every task with a positive can-do attitude. Everyone I've talked to speaks highly of Tony and his positivity. His attitude and work ethic are infectious, and he often leads others to demonstrating positivity and stewardship in our building. And we're so happy to be working with him at SHS. After receiving the award, he stated he was just doing his job, and he shows and that's showing his dedication to our school district. So I've seen Tony work every time I'm at the high school. He's a pretty amazing guy, and we thought no other person deserves it more. So I want to recognize Tony here tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. I have another buildings and ground staff I want to recognize tonight. Doug Setterstrom is our engineer at Bryant. He cannot be with us tonight. He's actually working with some Bryant kids who are being honored as scouts or working with some scouts tonight. So that was certainly priority. His nomination says that Doug is much more than a building engineer for our family at Bryant. He has embedded himself into our PBIS programming, and he has designed ways to reward kids for taking pride in their work, respect, belong that happens here at Bryant. If you were to join us for lunch at our school, you would see Doug sitting in and among the students, having conversations with and taking an interest in their students' lives. He has also created a unique experience for deserving students by creating a table of honor for 4 students at lunchtime. A student who receives a positive behavior referral from a staff person can choose up to 3 of their friends to join them for lunch, and Mr. Setterstrom is their waiter during this entire lunch period. He seats the children, he takes their order, he delivers their food, and he cleans their table when they are finished. It is truly a full service award, and the kids absolutely love it. Mr. Setterstrom also will volunteer to take any individual students that are sometimes struggling in one way or the other in their building, and he will find small tasks for them to help keep the building in tip-top shape. The students find a sense of pride in helping him maintain the building, and it seems to help each student navigate their struggles in that day or that week. He is masterful at redirecting behavior and focusing on the positives of each child that comes into the school. As a building, we are very proud of his work as an engineer and a positive role model for our youth. And I've subbed at Bryant over the years as a principal. And it was like one of the very first things I recognized when I walked into the lunchroom. It was very fancy dining. And he was facilitating the whole experience. So he's very deserving. And I think I'll be showing up this week to their staff meeting to share his award with him there. So thank you to both of our ground staff, and thanks, Mike, for being here, and Aaron for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. You bet.
You're welcome to leave or you're welcome to stay.
I love this shirt. Tony here. That's the mic, yeah. That's,
Oh, that's awesome.
that's, you can stop at the high school and show them. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Different draft too.
All right, under other informational items, the committee, or at the committee of the whole meeting on November 1st, Principal Townsend shared updates from Great Lakes Elementary, and Student Representative Aaron Johnson shared updates from the Superior High School. There's the one action item, and that's consideration of a night field trip. Conley, this high school, at the high school for Chicago, Illinois. That's March 1st to the 5th for the AP Biology Evolution field trip.
Motion approved.
Second.
Second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion items? Your report, doesn't it?
Yes.
Committee reports, starting out with Personnel Negotiations Committee, we have 3 action items. Administration recommends approval of the November 2022 new hires, transfers, and separations report.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, the administration recommends the updating of the following job descriptions in the support staff category, and that's for the English learner assistant.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all is in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we have a new action item. Administration recommends releasing Mara Evans, school social worker from Superior Middle School, from her 22-23 school year contract per her request, effective November 22nd, 2022, with abated damages provision enforced.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Molly, what's up?
She took a position. Okay. So are we posting soon? Oh, great.
She's one that we met with and
Mhm.
will be missed
Absolutely.
big time.
She's outstanding.
Any other discussion?
I will say one thing, sorry. One of the factors when I did an exit interview with her that she cited was the absolute frustration at the state level in getting her licensure. And it took us a year to get her license through DSPS, and she hasn't even been licensed yet by DPI, and that was a year ago she was hired. So it's a huge barrier. And so it took a letter from myself to the state superintendent and the governor's office to get her license, DSPS. And that finally just got through like 3 weeks ago. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know it's still a barrier.
And for those that haven't heard this discussion before, it's not like that in Minnesota.
Really?
No,
I like that.
if you have if you're a licensed social worker, you carry 2 licenses. So you have the state one, and then that predicates the MDE one. Nothing like that.
Oh.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No informational items, there were no discussion items, so I'd entertain a motion to accept the Personnel and Negotiations Committee report as presented.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Teaching and Learning Committee, there were no action items, no discussion items. There were a number of updates for informational items. Crystal Hinsman, our Director of Curriculum Instruction, shared an update on Staff Development Day. Carrie Saunders, our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Carrie Hennessy, our Mental Health and Family Services Coordinator, and Jane Larson, our District Social Worker, shared mental health updates to the board. And last, Erica Hutton Parker, Interim Director of Student Services and Special Ed, shared an update on the third Friday special ed count. So I would then entertain a motion to accept the Teaching and Learning Committee's report as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Budget and Insurance Committee had one action item. That's the gifts, grants, and bequests. The committee recommends approval to accept gifts, grants, and bequests received in October of 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Thank you.
No further discussion then? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There were no discussion items and there were no informational items. So entertain a motion to accept the budget and insurance presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
And then a second discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Policies and Rules Committee, there's two action items. The first, the committee recommends the approval of Resolution 22-04, and that's the requirement of nomination papers, school board positions.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, these next 2, 4, 6 policies, we voted those separately last week.
Mhm.
Want to do them as one this week?
I think you should do them separately, don't you?
Separately. So really, it's,
Can you remind me which one, for point of clarification, we needed to amend the language to?
It's a great question. It had to do with inventory.
No. Service? About
Food service, yes.
how many days they needed.
Fix that?
That's right. Just adding the number.
You can fix it now. You can say that it will be changed. Do you have any recommendations?
Where's Amy?
Can you click on it? Can you click on it to bring it up, the food service one? Well, should we wait till we get to that action item? Sorry.
Okay, I just didn't remember which one I asked to change.
yep. All right. So the committee recommends the following policy updates that are minor and or required updates to the state and federal laws. And this is the second and final reading. And the first one is policy 5720, activism.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Next, we have policy 5880, public performances by students.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion?
Just a reminder, all of these were recommendations from Neola.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We've got policy 6152, student fees, fines, and charges.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have the motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we've got policy 7450, property inventory.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Policy 8500, food services.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
I'd like to make an amendment under dietary modifications, the second paragraph. It says that the individual making such a request of the food service director shall be informed that the medical certification that the student has a restricted diet in accordance with criteria set forth in 7 CFR Part B, or 15B rather, must be submitted within
Do you have a
5.
Yeah, I was thinking 10, but I don't know. Must be submitted within 10 school days from the healthcare provider. I feel like there's supply chain issues.
So 10 days,
That's why I was proposing 10.
10 school days, 2.
Yes, yeah.
okay, within 10 school days from a healthcare provider with prescriptive authority in the state of Wisconsin, or the dietary modification may be discontinued until rather such statement is received.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Do I have to vote on my modification or no?
On your amendment, yeah.
Or can we just agree to it, or do we have to vote on it?
She made the motion to amend. So I have to take action on the motion to amend.
Seconded the motion to amend.
Thank you.
All right, we have the motion and a second on the amendment. To add this
Just up there.
10 school days. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Now we'll. Also, there's a motion and it's, oh, there isn't yet.
Vote on the whole policy.
Yep. Is there a motion on the policy itself?
I'll make a motion to approve the policy as amended.
As, second. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Last, we got policy 9270, home-based private tribal schooling.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carries. There were no discussion items and no informational items for the Policy and Rules Committee, so I'd entertain a motion to accept the Policies and Rules Committee's report as presented.
Motion to accept.
Motion and a second. Discussion? None, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Next, we have the Operations Committee. There were no action items, no discussion items, informational items. Update by Bobby Matherly. Our Director of Buildings and Grounds, he shared updates on the high school restroom redesign. Is that going up for bid?
Yep.
Okay.
I think it's due the 29th.
Great.
So with that, I'd entertain a motion to accept the Operations Committee's report as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. None, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last committee report, we have the Legislative Committee. There were no action items and no discussion items. We had 2 informational items. It's the record state surplus confirmed should enable more school funding in next state budget. The state of Wisconsin ended its fiscal year on June 30th, 2022 with a record positive balance of $4.3 billion, according to the new state annual fiscal report released today by the State Department of Administration. That report also confirms that Wisconsin has a record $1.73 billion in its budget stabilization fund, or the rainy day fund. And you can click on the link to see the full article about that. Next, the DPI releases district certified 22-23 general school aid amounts. The Department of Public Instruction released certified state general school aid amounts that each school district will receive during the current 22-23 school year. By law, the DPI must certify these aid amounts by October 15th each year. You can click on this link, see that full article on that, and the articles can be found on the WASB Legislative Updates page or by clicking the link. With that, I'd entertain a motion to accept the Legislative Committee's report as presented.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That would conclude the committee reports. With that, is there any other reports by members of the board?
Len, I can share a couple of updates that I have.
Okay.
One is about our time in the schools. First of all, it was nice that the principals made time to meet with us and take us kind of around the school. Our teachers are doing an amazing job, but the thing, I think the general consensus is that the year started out really well, which is really positive. You could see it and feel it in the atmosphere of the schools. Each one had a unique difference to the buildings, which was really neat to see positive things in different areas. The two things that I had marked down to talk about with the board is, again, across the board, lack of mental health services, but that's not a surprise to any of us. It's a nationwide issue. It's a local city issue. But then there was also, they expressed to us the EMLSS program, the need to make sure that that continues, that the positions that have been created have been a huge benefit for our students. I know Principal Parrish from Northern Lights, she sent us some data as well on, I don't believe it was a full year that it was implemented, right?
EML.
Right.
No, this is the first year.
Yep.
Yep.
So she had shared some data from the little bit that they've done and how much growth had already taken place. It really did speak volumes to this program and what these teachers and these positions have done for these kids. So that's one area that they really stressed keeping. Then we had our meet and confer meeting. It was attended very well. They had shared specifically, and these are things that I gathered, so correct me if I'm wrong or if there's additional things.
It was just the admin meet and confer, right?
Yes, admin meet and confer. They had shared specifically about how raises are done and the discrepancy that can happen for those that have been in the district longer or higher on the steps. And how then we aren't necessarily staying competitive with wages in comparison to other areas or other positions like that. They had asked that perhaps we do compare other districts, neighboring districts, perhaps more, and then others that are similar in size and demographic more often, maybe even yearly, just to see. And then they had provided us some neat diagrams showing the discrepancies. And they wanted to remind us as a board that they do not fall under the same umbrella as the teachers in the teachers union. So when talking about pay raises and those kind of things, that can be different. And so if we can maybe as a board take a look at those discrepancies and maybe close the gap in areas that are bigger than others. I mean, I don't see how there's a way to completely close those gaps because we haven't really kept up necessarily with the increases over the years. So, some were quite big. But if we can potentially take a look at that instead of just doing one blatant, increase or pay raise, that might help. They did express that it's hard and sometimes uncomfortable to discuss pay because they're not necessarily doing this for the money. And they want their teachers to be well taken care of as well. That was their main concern. But these are all things that we do need to know about from them. And I felt that it went really well. It felt really positive again. And so I was very grateful to them for being so open and honest. And then just very briefly, I attended the foundation meeting. They shared about their big event that they do at the homecoming with Root Beer Floats, and that was a success. They pass out flyers and brochures to kind of do some recruiting and seeing if there's more interest in donating for scholarships and things. And then they went over a ton of numbers and talked about possibly shopping around, also clarifying some of the numbers with VMO. And then they also cut the meeting a little bit shorter and had a social hour at ACES, which I was unable to attend, but I guess they do that once a year to kind of get to know one another better. And I had trunk or treat at my kids' school that I helped head up, so I couldn't attend the social hour, but
Okay.
so yeah.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
And just to echo on that just a little bit, so what Principal Parrott shared with us, then we also saw at Cooper and we also saw at Bryant, and they're reading programs at, the fluency, the comprehension, the accuracy and stuff, and the information that Principal Parrott shared with us. As I looked at that on my own, and I think I can share this with all of you. I'll send this to you so you can see it, but it's information like that, that it's more valuable for me to see that in print than to hear them talk about it. I don't want to demean, say, oh my gosh, they're standing up and they're telling us about all these wonderful things. But the fact is that here's this information in print, and they can also, give that out to their parent groups or whatever and stuff. But I think it's important for us to see, because that information that they showed us that they started in their schools, where the kids started, some of them when they first got tested at the beginning of school, and where some of them had already moved in October.
Yeah.
And a lot because of EMLSS. The work that those people were doing in those 3 buildings was phenomenal.
I'm glad they were able to talk about that.
I'm excited to see the data at the end of the year too. That will be very exciting. I'm hopeful for that.
And then I did attend a regional meeting in Ashland about school board and how to run meetings and everything. And I can confidently say to all of you that we follow Robert's Rules of Order very well. And thank you to you, because you help us along with that. But the fact of the matter is, in that whole structure that they presented to us, I could see us in every one of them. Every one of those slides that was presented and everything. And then you had the opportunity to ask questions if you were concerned about any part of it. So that was a very,
It validated a lot of what we do.
exactly. And it was eye-opening. It was good to see.
So again, piggyback on full down, try not to repeat anything. I'll make it brief. I looked at the school visits as kind of a one step for the board to see what's going on in the schools and how we can make better decisions for our district. We talked about the EMLSS teachers. We made a point to try to speak with the EMLSS teacher and or a mental health worker, social worker, counselor in every school, and to see firsthand the need for at least those 2 positions. I'm not saying there's not a need for other positions, but those 2 categories, those staff members were busy in almost every school we went to, showing that there is a high level need for those positions. And some of the school administrators made a point to share that they really want to see the EMLSS stick around in the future. We're dealing with budgets in the future here. But clearly it's very important. They were very busy with their students. I thought it was great to be able to get into majority of the elementary school classes. And I thought, at least in that class I went to, teachers and students were very happy to have us, very happy to share what they're learning, whether it's the curriculum or Northern Lights working on why they're the best school. I don't know.
Is that what they always? Oh, yeah.
Kids were actually doing a lesson on that.
Yeah, they were.
But it's also good to see
Pride.
firsthand, not just the staffing needs that we have our schools again. What's her name, Mariah Evans? Mara.
Mhm.
We were able to speak with her for a considerable amount of time on what's going on there, and seeing her connection with the students. It is disappointing to see her go, but clearly there is a need for that in the school, in every school. Of course, we talked mental health stuff last week, so I won't get into that again, but there are differences in every school as far as the help that they're getting. We also see building improvements, bathrooms. We're going to be talking about bathrooms in the future here for the high school, being able to see exactly what Bob's going to be telling us about and why we need bathrooms in certain spots. Again, touring the pack and seeing the updates there, it's good to see what has happened, what's changed. I do want to highlight in the high school, well, actually I should say in all levels of school, the Kalen family. We met the whole family. As a principal, teacher, and or their daughter. What's her name, Paige?
Ask me first.
Presley.
It was a P. All right. So Presley was nice to keep the Spartan Shack open for us.
Oh.
Enough so that she could tell us what goes on in the shop, how things are done in that world. So it was very nice of her to keep it open and share what she does there with us, as well as everything else. And Dave was in the school talking to some students and doing a promo video. So it's nice to see everything in action, everything working. I'll talk about one school I want to highlight. They talked about truancies and some the barriers of truancies and what they perceived busing, changing the radius of
Miles.
where we bus to from 2, maybe down to 1 mile to try to get some of these kids in school. They feel like that would help with truancy issues a little bit more if we could change that. Just putting that out there.
Dave has been working for the last 3 years to create different drop-off spots, and he has been able to reduce it in many areas, like in Great Lakes and in Northern Lights, to where it's not 2 miles for everybody. So
I think in total, the atmosphere of the schools, especially high school, middle school, but every school we had very positive interactions with. I don't have anything negative to say about any of the schools. I think it was a great experience, very welcoming in every school. Principals were very intelligent on their job in their school and were able to answer the questions for even the counselors and social workers that were busy with students. So it was nice to be able to do that. Also part of the Amin Confer, I'm not going to go too much into that. Brooke already talked about what they're asking for, but I do want to say it was very great that we could all sit and listen to each other, talk with each other, be open as a board and staff, hearing again firsthand. I think getting to schools and talking to staff are a definite need for this board to make better decisions for the district. So I think it's a great opportunity. It's all in there.
All right. I guess the one thing I'll bring up is I spent Saturday down at Stevens Point at the resolutions, state resolutions meeting, where they go through all the resolutions that districts have presented. It was an interesting time on Saturday, going through each resolution and the dialogue back and forth on how they whittle it down, change them. So that was a interesting time. I get to do that again next year. And we have one more meeting the Tuesday night prior to the state convention. We meet again, and then each one of us gets to get up and then read one of the resolutions at the meeting. So that was my Saturday. And anybody else got reports? If not, some program highlights.
I have a few. I just wrote one down based on your feedback about the site visits. In addition to hiring the MLSS teachers, we also have put we made a significant investment with our ESSER funds in providing new curriculum resources for those teachers as well as special education services. So you saw them using brand new materials. That it was a good use of those ESSER funds because obviously those are one-time funds. And so we invested in a very comprehensive program for both those MLSS teachers in reading and special education programs, as well as professional development to help with those teachers. So I'm really proud of that whole program. I'm proud of those teachers, their leadership. They're working really hard to do right by kids and move those test scores and outcomes for kids. So they're doing a great job.
The position does help out the teachers, takes
Oh, for sure.
added, I guess.
Yeah, before we had those positions, a classroom teacher was really the one who was providing those interventions. They still provide a level of intervention, but this is another level of intervention that they were unable to do. That's good. Just an FYI, the Department of Justice, DOJ, Wisconsin DOJ is continuing to provide training to schools across the state around threat assessment. It's been a part of their work since they've been established. We took part in that training when it first was pushed out about 4 years ago. I was able to convince them that they needed to drive to Superior because we have a lot of new administrators and counselors, and they are going to do that. So we have about 35 administrators and counselors who will be going through that training later this month, and we're partnering with the police department here in town. They're also sending some of their police officers to be a part of that threat assessment training. So it's just another tool to help us assess any sort of concerns regarding student safety. And then lastly, just a reminder that Friday is Veterans Day. I know Great Lakes is doing we just pushed out a press release. They're going to be putting out a program to honor veterans as well as all of those service members, police department, fire department, and et cetera. Just saying, I am a mom of an airman, and so I know the sacrifices not only our veterans make, but also the parents and the sisters and the brothers and the wives and the husbands who also have to sacrifice. And our kids are impacted by those military families. So just a reminder of honoring them on Friday. That's all I got.
Tomorrow's election day. Go on.
And tomorrow's election day.
Anybody else with district program highlights? If not, consideration of bills and pre-approved bills.
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second to pay the bills. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Comments by members of the public tonight? Public has dwindled.
Oh, you got anything? Nothing?
Tired.
Take that as a no. So with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good Thanksgiving. I probably won't see you till after that.